My grandma used to say, never whistle in the dark, it calls them. I thought it was just a superstition. Last night, as a joke, I whistled outside my window. A second later, something whistled back. But it wasn't human. My lights flickered, my door creaked open, and a shadow stretched across the floor. Then a cold voice whispered, I heard you. I was born and raised in a small town nestled in the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia. My family had lived there for generations, and with that came a rich tapestry of traditions and superstitions. One that always stood out was my grandma's warning, never whistle in the dark, it calls them. As a child, I took her words to heart. But as I grew older, I dismissed them as mere folklore, tales spun to keep children in line. That is, until last night. It was a quiet evening. The kind where the wind whispers through the trees, and the world feels still. I was alone in my house, sipping on some bourbon, reminiscing about old times. The memory of Grandma's warning surfaced, and with a chuckle, I decided to challenge the old superstition. I walked over to my window, opened it slightly, and let out a soft whistle into the night. It was meant to be a joke, a nod to the past. But then, a second later, a whistle echoed back. It wasn't human. It was distorted, almost like a mimicry of my own. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the room. The door creaked open slowly, though I was certain I had locked it. A shadow stretched across the floor, moving with intent. Then, a cold voice whispered, I heard you. Panic surged through me. I slammed the window shut, locked the door, and turned on every light in the house. But the feeling of being watched lingered. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the living room, shotgun in hand, waiting for dawn. This morning, I called my cousin, who still lives nearby. When I told him what happened, he went silent. Then he said, you shouldn't have done that. He reminded me of the stories Grandma used to tell. About the spirits that roam the mountains at night, drawn by the sound of whistling. He said they mimic the living, luring them into the woods, never to be seen again. I don't know what I summoned last night, but I won't be whistling in the dark ever again. That day, after the call with my cousin, I stayed inside. I drew the curtains, double-checked every lock, even unplugged the microwave. Don't ask why, I was just rattled. By evening, I started thinking maybe I imagined the whole thing. Maybe it was just some animal outside, or a weird echo off the hills. That's what I told myself when I finally tried to sleep again. Around 2:13 a.m., I woke up to footsteps. Not like the house settling. Not like pipes creaking. Real, heavy, slow footsteps on the wooden floor outside my bedroom. I held my breath. Listened. They were deliberate. Measured. I reached for my phone, but it was dead. I swear I charged it before bed. My clock wasn't on either. Power was out. Again. I didn't want to move. But I had to. I got up, quiet as I could, grabbed my old baseball bat from the closet. I opened the door a crack, nothing there. The hallway was pitch black, but I could feel something. That pressure you get in your chest before a panic attack. Like the air itself was thicker. I started down the hall. And that's when I saw it. Not a person. Not an animal. Just a shape. Tall. Wrong. It was standing in the corner by the front door. The porch light flickered once, and for half a second I saw its face. It looked like me. But twisted. Grinning too wide, skin too pale, eyes, completely black. Then it whistled. I froze. My ears rang. The sound wasn't loud, but it hit me like a punch to the chest. Then it turned, and stepped through the front door. I swear it didn't open it, it stepped through it. I ran to the door and threw it open. Nothing. Just the wind. No footsteps. No shape. Nothing. The next day, I packed a bag and drove 2 hours to Charleston to stay with my cousin, Brent. I needed out of that house. I told him everything, again. He listened, this time without that look of doubt on his face. I didn't want to tell you this before, Brent said. But it happened to Grandpa once. Back in '72. He told me that Grandpa had whistled at night after a poker game. Same thing happened. Something whistled back. He didn't talk about what he saw, just told everyone to never do it. Weeks later, he went missing during a hunting trip. They found his boots by the river, but nothing else. Brent also showed me something that chilled me to the bone. An old tape recorder. Said he found it in a box of Grandpa's stuff years ago. We played the tape. At first, just static. Then footsteps. Then, whistling. My breath caught in my throat, it was the same as I heard 2 nights ago. Then a voice, low and cold, I heard you. Same words. Same cadence. Same voice. But Grandpa died before I was born. I left Charleston and drove back home that night. I don't know why. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe I needed answers. But when I got to my house, something was waiting for me. The front door was wide open. Inside, the air smelled like damp leaves and old pennies. And someone, or something, had been there. My photos were turned around, drawers open, furniture shifted. But nothing was taken. On the wall, scratched into the paint, were the words, I never left. I checked the locks again. Everything was intact. I don't know how it got in. I don't even know what it is. The next morning, a stranger showed up at my door. Old guy. Looked about 70, scruffy beard, long coat. Said his name was Elias. Claimed he used to know my grandma. I heard you been whistling, he said, looking me dead in the eye. I didn't answer. You need to come with me, he said. There's something you gotta see. And fast. Before it gets inside you. Inside me. I didn't want to go. Every bone in my body said don't trust this guy. But my gut said otherwise. So I followed. We drove in silence. Elias took back roads through the woods, way past the state line into Kentucky. No GPS, just memory. After nearly an hour, we stopped in front of an abandoned church half swallowed by trees. Broken windows. Ivy crawling up the siding. The kind of place you'd never notice unless you were looking for it. This is where it started, Elias said. Before your grandma ever warned you. He pulled out a thick, leather-bound journal and handed it to me. On the first page, property of Eliza Jane, 1947. My grandma. I flipped through pages filled with symbols, sketches, notes in tight cursive. She'd seen the thing too. Not once, dozens of times. She called it, the Echo Man. He doesn't live in our world, Elias said. He waits on the edge. That's why the whistle matters. It breaks the line. It tells him you're listening. The next few pages weren't just about sightings. They were warnings. Instructions. One stood out, if you hear your voice outside, do not answer. He can only wear what you give him. I remembered the night it whistled back. The voice I heard wasn't just in the room. It was mine. Your grandma locked it away once, Elias continued. With a song, a whistle, and something that belonged to her. Buried it under the altar. I stared at the broken church. So why now? Why me? Because you whistled. We stepped inside. The church floor creaked like it hadn't been touched in 50 years. Dust floated in the beams of light cutting through the boards. At the altar, Elias pulled back a rotten rug, revealing a wooden trapdoor. He pried it open. The smell hit me first, earth, mold, and something metallic. Blood. I didn't want to ask. We climbed down into a small stone room. At the center was a box, maybe 2 feet long, wrapped in rusted chains. It pulsed, actually pulsed, like it had a heartbeat. Elias pulled out a knife. "Cut your palm," he said. "Drop a little on the box." That's how she sealed it last time. I hesitated. But before I could decide, something knocked on the trapdoor above us. 3 slow knocks. Then my voice called down. "Hey, you okay? You forgot your phone upstairs." But I had my phone in my pocket. Elias went pale. "Don't speak. Don't even breathe too loud." Another knock. Then a longer pause. The voice laughed. "Always curious, aren't you? Just like her. Eliza Jane." I froze. Then it whispered, "You were never supposed to know." Elias turned to me. "You have to leave West Virginia. Burn your clothes. Don't take anything with your name on it." I didn't understand. "Why?" "Because the Echo Man doesn't follow trails, he follows names." That night, I left the church with that journal in my glove box, still shaking. Back home, I packed a small bag. Burned everything else. I drove until sunrise. Tennessee, then Alabama. I didn't stop until I hit the coast in Florida. But something was wrong. Even down there, in a crowded motel, I felt it again. That hum. That flicker of lights. The subtle shift in air pressure. And the worst part? On the mirror in the motel bathroom, written in fog, were the words, "I heard you again." Elias had said it could only wear what we gave it. My voice. My name. My memories. And if it truly wore them? Then what if the thing that walked out of my house that night was me? After that night in Florida, I stopped using my name. Switched cards. Paid in cash. Moved around a lot, small towns, back roads, no patterns. But no matter where I went, it was always one step ahead. I'd walk into gas stations and see people give me weird looks. Once, in a diner in Mississippi, a waitress leaned in and said, "Didn't you just leave here 5 minutes ago?" I hadn't. Another time, a guy on the street asked, "Hey, you okay? You looked real pale earlier." I hadn't spoken to anyone all day. That's when I realized something sickening. It wasn't just following me. It was living as me. Every time I ran, it moved into the space I left behind. I was losing control of my own life. And if it kept going, what if one day it became more me than me? I needed answers. I called Brent again. Told him everything. He said Elias had gone missing, vanished the day after we left the church. No signs. Just his truck left behind, doors wide open. Brent had an idea though. He remembered a place my grandma used to go when she was doing her strange stuff, as he called it. A cave up near Black Hollow Ridge, back in West Virginia. It was remote, past the old mining roads. "I'll meet you there," he said. I almost said no. But something inside me, the part that hadn't been stolen yet, said I had to end this. 2 days later, I stood in front of the cave. Brent was already there, flashlight in hand. He handed me a bag. Inside, a whistle carved from bone, a silver flask filled with dark liquid, and Grandma's journal. "Your grandma left this behind with me," he said. Said only to give it to you if the Echo Man came back. We went in. The cave was narrow, damp, filled with echoes of our own footsteps. After about 50 yards, we found a strange circle drawn in white ash on the cave floor. In the center, an old wooden chair. It was scorched black. Brent read from the journal while I stood in the center. He poured the liquid in a circle around me. Then he whispered, "Don't answer anything. No matter what." He backed away. And then, it came. Not through the cave. From inside it. First, I heard my voice. Talking to Brent. Telling him to stop. To help. Then it cried like a child. Then it laughed. Then, it stepped out of me. I saw it. It looked exactly like me. Same clothes. Same hair. Same scar on my chin. But its eyes were still black. It stood outside the circle and said, "You're in my seat." I said nothing. It tried again. "You called me, remember? We had a deal." Then it smiled. "You whistled." My heart was pounding. I gripped the bone whistle. Then Brent threw something into the circle. A locket. Grandma's. The thing screamed. Not loud, deep. Like the earth itself groaned. I blew the whistle. It staggered. Smoke poured from its mouth. Its skin cracked. The shadows around it started to twist and writhe. It tried to step into the circle, but it burned. Flames licked up from the ash. "You can't erase me," it hissed. "I'm already part of you." That's when Brent opened the journal to the last page. It wasn't written by Grandma. It was written in my handwriting. And it said, "He gets in through memory. Through the name. Through the voice. Burn the last of yourself, before he takes it all." I realized what I had to do. I pulled out my wallet. Birth certificate. License. Old letters. I threw them into the fire. Every trace of who I was. Everything tied to my name. Then I screamed into the fire, not a word, just noise. The Echo Man roared. It twisted like a snake, face cracking, limbs contorting. Then, silence. The circle flared up one last time. And it was gone. Just, gone. Brent helped me out of the cave. We didn't speak much. Back home, I burned everything I hadn't already. I changed my name. Moved far away. Got a new life. New job. Nobody from the old town knows where I am. But some nights, I hear someone whistle outside my window. I don't look. I don't answer. And I never whistle back.